Hey girl, hey. I wanted to share a story. It's something I wanted to share in the future. I wanted to collect my thoughts before I did, but I felt the urge to go ahead and do it now. I would have preferred like a better setting where I wasn't sitting in my car, but I'm pulled over to the side of the road, getting myself together before I get ready to go into work, and an ambulance just passed by me, and I was wondering if they had someone back there or if they were getting ready to go pick someone up. And I couldn't see inside because the windows are tinted. And I thought back, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm about to start getting emotional. I didn't even start telling the story. Oh my gosh. So I thought back to the time where I was in the back of the ambulance with my baby. A few days after Ayla was born, not even a few days, maybe 2 days. She came home on a Friday, and we wound up taking her back to the hospital on Sunday, and she developed a blister on her foot, and she had her okay, I have to pause the video to explain why she got the blister. The long story is in my labor and delivery video, which is linked down below. But immediately after she was born, she was taken into the NICU, in which they put an IV in her foot. And she kicked the IV out, and some of that fluid got under her skin, which essentially created a burn, and that is how she developed the blister. Pediatrician appointment. I think you're supposed to bring your baby after they're born. After you bring them home, they're supposed to go to the pediatrician, I think a day or two after they're born, but she was born on a Friday, so it would have been 3 days later. And I was trying to wait until we went to the pediatrician instead of going to the hospital. Nate and I brought our new baby back to the hospital, the same hospital in which she was born from, and her foot was infected. Because it was a little red. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it was infected. She did not show any discomfort or anything like that, and that is kind of what I was basing the urgency on. And so they, of course, they took her vitals, and they wanted to transfer her to another hospital that was a little bit more pediatrician friendly. And I remember, I think they drew blood, and I couldn't watch. I could not watch. And I did have to go to the ER one time when I broke my arm a few years back, and that was my first time going to the ER. But they took me the setup was different. This setup it was curtains. It wasn't really private. I didn't like the area, the scenery. And so she was behind a curtain. I had to step out. Nate stayed in there because I just could not watch them poke my baby. I just couldn't. So I stepped out and shed a few tears. And then they needed to get urine from her, sterile urine. And they had to insert a catheter and use iodine. And again, it's like it was invasive, and they're doing this to my baby. And they told me that she would have to stay in the hospital. So I thought, damn, I'm not going to be with my baby. It was bothersome. And the only way that they can transport her, because I thought, okay, let's hop in the car and then we will transport her to the hospital. But that's not how it works, because by that time they put a IV catheter in her arm, and they couldn't, let her off the facility with the IV catheter in. So they had to transport her in the ambulance. Okay, I don't know why that's making me emotional, because it really wasn't that bad. And she was so chill. She was cool, relaxed. She wasn't upset. She wasn't crying. We were just getting our breastfeeding together, because like I said, at that time she was less than a week old. Was it Thursday, Friday, Saturdays? She was 5 days old. So we were, I was getting the hang of breastfeeding her. And just the thought of us being separated was disturbing, obviously, but I'm like, look, this is what I have to do. This is what I have to do so that she can be okay. And come to find out, we were able to stay with her. Both Nate and I were able to stay with her, and I was okay. I was at peace after I had assumed the worst. Anyway, so we were in an ambulance. Like I said, she was cool. We got to the hospital. The doctor was awesome. They offered me food. They took care of me and Ayla. They had her hooked up to an IV for fluids, and they were giving her antibiotics, and we were there for 2 days. And by the time that we got to the ER initially, I forgot to mention that her blister had popped. And so her concern was because she was so new, she didn't have an immune system, and so they had to run all these tests to make and cover everything to make sure that the infection wouldn't take over her body, essentially. So she was good. Ayla is such a trooper. She is such a fighter. Anyway, so after that, after those 2 days, we went home. I can't remember how long it was before we wound up going back to the hospital again because it wasn't healing correctly. And we went to a different hospital this time, and the hospitality was not the same. I can't remember if they offered me food, but Nate wasn't able to stay there. It was such a small room. It was uncomfortable, but I didn't give a damn because I was going to be there with my baby, and she was getting the care that she needed. And it was a teaching hospital, so they constantly had people coming in, and that's what bothered me because sometimes they didn't announce who they were. And I learned at that point to stand up for her, to be her voice, because I did not know. I've never been in this situation before, and it's like, my initial thought was they're doctors, they know what they're doing, and then there's times where it's like, look, she's sleeping, someone just came in here, woke her up, give her a minute. It's time for her. The nurse, give us a minute, come back. After a certain time period, because we were also there for 2 days, and this is the second time that we went to the hospital, I was catching attitudes like, who the F are you? Address yourself, announce yourself, and what are you going to be doing to my baby? So, I didn't want to be like that, but after a while, like I said, this is our second hospital. Some of these people didn't announce themselves. One person, I was on a phone, I think I might have been on the phone with my mom or Nate, and they walked in and just started, I don't know, assessing her. And it was like, I was like, hold on, someone just walked in here. I wanted to say, who the fuck are you? Who? And just, it was a bit much. I already have that type of personality, but then now you messing with my baby? Girl. After that, I did not have that problem, and they made sure that they announced themselves. Thereafter, I didn't have that problem, but it was a trying time, but because Ayla was so cool, she didn't express any discomfort. She wasn't, just because my baby was okay and her demeanor was chill, it helped me. But initially getting at that hospital, initially going to that hospital, when they first was checking us in, they didn't know if she was going to need surgery. So they was like, we can't give her any food. That was hard because, again, I was nursing her and they were telling me I can't feed her, and she's getting fussy and starting to cry because she was hungry. And they took x-rays, and just going through these tests was like, my poor baby. She got an MRI on her foot, and she did so good with that. Because they wanted to make sure that the infection did not get down to her bone. Like, I appreciate them being thorough, but just as a mom and as a new mom, it was hard. So I did, you know, have a moment where I broke down. I did good for the most part. I was trying to, you know, stay strong. But after a couple days of being there and she was getting better and they told me what to expect, she actually saw a plastic surgeon, and she felt that it was healing okay. They gave me medicine that I needed, like everything that I needed I got for her. And, you know, she healed within time, a pretty decent time. We had a few doctor's appointments to follow up with this plastic surgeon. She didn't need surgery or anything like that. She has a little scar on her foot, but you can't tell, but it's on her foot. Like, you know, it wasn't on her face. It wasn't anywhere that was visible. She was able to leave without any serious damage. And I know, I am fully aware that things could be worse, always can be worse. But, that was just, I just wanted to share that experience just because an ambulance had just rolled past me. And I am forever grateful. I'm forever grateful for those nurses, for those doctors, for my husband making a decision that he made his career decision to go into the military, because benefiting from that, that insurance, like, you know, we were blessed that we were not hit hard financially with medical bills. I am so grateful on so many different levels. And you see how happy my baby is. She could care less. She could care less then, and she could care less now. But again, this all came about because the ambulance passed me by. But now I'm late for work, so let me get ahead and go keep my job. Until you see me again, many blessings to you. Peace.